What's going on, world? And welcome to Clearing the Wreckage Podcast. It's the voice and your host, Kareem A. Rashid. And once again, I don't know what you got going on. You could be getting on the toilet, or you could be getting off the toilet. Hell, for all I know, you could be wiping your tushy. But I know that I'm ready, and so I hope that you're ready to clear the wreckage. Yes, indeed. What's going on, my friends, my peeps? Welcome back to another great conversation of Clearing the Wreckage Podcast. You already know what time it is. I met you already in our imaginary coffee shop. I got my coffee. Let me show you. You watching me? I got my coffee. I got it right here. Lord knows I need it. Anyway, I know you got your favorite drink. So what's up? How have you been? How was your week? You're going to tell me it was awesome. Kareem, I've been putting all the tools that you have gave me from last week into place. And I've been continually practicing those. And I've been in anticipation to see what we go talk about today. So I'm excited. I'm like, man, I'm so excited too. So let's get right to it then. All right. So I'm going to tell you something that people have probably told you before. I know that I am not the only one to say this because people have told it to me. So I am here now to share it with you. This beautiful piece of wisdom. You have to go through it to get to it. Yes. Shall I repeat myself? You have to go through it to get to it. But there are two things that are required. And that is grace and humility. Yes, and that is going to be the conversation today. You can say that's the title of our episode, whatever. We're just getting together, having some coffee, and having a convo. What's up, my peeps? So now I was at that point. You already know. So last week we talked about it. So I was at that point now where I could actually see myself the way that I was supposed to see myself. Not too small, not too grandiose, but just right. You know, when you go to the store and you get a Snickers bar, you know, and you're just like, I just want the regular Snickers bar because that Snickers bar is just the right size. You know, you don't want to go and pick up, you know, from the store a bag of mini Snicker bars because you're going to end up eating 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 just to get to the regular size of the Snicker bar. Your hunger cravings will not be satisfied with one mini Snicker bar. And the same goes that I'm not going to go into the store to get a king size Snicker bar. Because that regular Snicker bar is just the right size. So that is how I saw myself. That is how I became just the right size. Not too big, not too small, but just like that Snickers bar. So I was not thinking of myself lowly, and neither was I thinking of myself so highly. Right now I can see that I was imperfectly perfect and perfectly imperfect. Yep, I said it. Don't let me start preaching up in here. Because some of y'all are probably like, man, hold on. I ain't perfect. I'm just imperfect. Why you put the word perfect in there? I'll be the first to tell you, because I know you're telling yourself for all these years, all this time, I'm such an idiot, I'll never be perfect. You were made perfect. And you were made imperfectly perfect and perfectly imperfect. There are some things about you that may be just a little off skew, a little off point, and that's okay. So that's what I realized. I got to that point where I realized, you know what, I got some dark, grim things about me. I mean, I had just shared them with my mentor / sponsor. I just shared the exact nature of my own. I just shared all my crap, all my darkness, all my secrets. But see, I also knew that I had rays of light beaming through me. This is the point where humility kicked in, folks. This is the place where that grace kicked in as well. Amazing thing about it is that the grace had to kick in right after I exposed myself to God and to my mentor. Right after. There was a little space there in which I had to be given some grace. Because let me tell you, if I wasn't given that, I was ready to think of myself as lowly. Man, look at all this crap, man, that you have done to people. Man, look at your weight. Man, you're always going to be like this. That grace had to be given right then and right there so I could see myself with the right eyes. And so first, that grace flowed in by my sponsor, aka mentor. I'm going to keep using the word mentor as I've shared with you over and over again because the sponsor is a recovery term. So I'm using the word mentor because everybody knows what that means, right? So my mentor, he created a safe space for me. And that was the grace. He created that safe space for me to be able to come to him and admit the exact nature of my wrongs, to be able to just pour it out. He was understanding. He reassured me that I'm not alone. He also had, hey, I'm here to listen to you without any judgment. Also, you can confide in me. I am safe. And I am also safe because anything that you may say to me, trust me, I most likely have been there, done that, said that, and screwed up way more times than you have in your life and that you probably will ever screw up in your life. Remember, this guy was 66 years old. I mean, I was only a whopping 36, 37. I mean, come on. Of course he's been through way more things in his life than I have. But he was there to reassure me of that. The other great thing is that his reassurance came with is that he shared his life with me. He shared his stories with me. He had already shared all his baggage, all his destruction, all his havoc, all of his wreckage with me, the exact nature of his wrongs. And every single story that he shared with me, it was about him and how he messed up. And how he now has the opportunity to experience God's grace and the opportunity to have some humility to become the best version of himself today. And so I was able to receive all of that from him. Then as I sat alone in the park with God, God's grace was showered upon me. And I felt it. And as I felt it, I was brought to tears, y'all. And the reason I was brought to tears is because right then and there, I felt that grace. And that is when I knew for a fact that God loves me just as I am. Wreckage and all this crap I just exposed, God loves me. God already knows all this stuff about me. Which gave me the humility then to finally ask God to remove those shortcomings. So then I received more grace. I was not smited. Turns out I did not turn back to dust. Which, I mean, I was thinking that was going to happen. I was like, man, God's finna just strike me down, turn me back to ashes. I'm doomed. Instead, I was forgiven. I was held. I was comforted. I was given peace. I was given total reassurance that I am not alone and that God has been with me always and has never left me. And that God has always, and when I say always, I mean always, looked at me as a perfect creation and a perfect part of an extension of God thyself. Yes, that is how God has always looked at me. Folks, my friends, that is how God looks at you. And you already know I believed otherwise. right? I believed completely otherwise about myself, and I believed that God did not look at me that way. Why would he look at me? Look how horrible of a person I am. Are you still thinking that way about yourself? I know that you are. That's why we're here together on this journey of clearing the wreckage so that we could do this together as one. And I'm sharing my experience with you so you can see how it was for me. And maybe from that experience, you can take some of the things that I learned and you can apply it to your life, to your walk, to your journey. And we do this together, hand in hand, every single week. Remember, you are not alone. I've been there. I have thought like this. I still at times think negatively about myself. And that is when I have to go inside. Wait, nope. That is when I have to take the time, as I always say, right, to look inside so that the wreckage can begin to clear. And so you know that I believed opposite. I believed otherwise. So what did it take for me to believe? It took humility, my friends. Let's go back to the story, shall we? You know the story. I've shared my story with you over and over again. You know it by now. You know what happened. The journey started in 2012, kicked out of mom's house, drifted into the woods, became homeless without nothing and no one. Can we say that humility was being formed in me? Yes, my pride was slowly being removed, very gradually, but it was being removed for sure. Trust me, that is a humbling position to be in. Try sleeping in the woods for just a night. Go do it, I dare you. I bet you'll have some humility. That was the most humbling position for me to be in, to be a beggar on the streets. In the old terms, in the old days, biblical days, they were called beggars. They weren't called homeless people. That was the lowest of the low. Yeah. We can conclude that some humility was being formed to me. But as you know, right, I was still filled with pride because I was still blaming everyone else for my state of living, my state of being, my situation, my circumstances. I'm homeless. I don't know why I'm homeless. I ain't do nothing wrong. Why did my mom kick me out? Mad at her like it was her fault. I still was filled with pride. But you know what? I had to go through it to get to it. Yes, I had to go through it to get to it. I'm going to say it one more time. I had to go through it to get to it. I had to sit in those woods. I had to know what it was like. I had to experience it. Because I'm here to tell you, sometimes in life, that's just the way it is. I know it's so hard to accept, but that is just the way that it is in life. And I could clarify that statement, and I may need to go ahead and say it a little bit differently. Hold on, because I'm about to start preaching. In life, period. That means in your life, in my life, you have to go through it to get to it. Period, point blank, end of discussion. I don't care how many excuses you want to give me, how many excuses I wanted to give everybody else. I wanted to sit in my sorrow and be depressed and just be like, nah. Eventually I came to that fruition that I had to go through it. Because God is trying to get me somewhere. Yes, don't let me start preaching. So let's take the athlete, for example. Maybe this example will give you a little bit more clarity, more than my experience. So this example of an athlete. Let's take a runner. Someone who is an amazing runner. Right? Do you think they just sat on their tushy and was like, I'm going to beat everybody anyway, so, I'm going to win this race, so I'll just relax until it's time for the race. Then I'll get up off my lazy bum and go and run and win. Nope, that's not how it happens. That's not how it happens. Not only does he have to get up off of his lazy bum, his or her, but it requires humility. It requires them losing races throughout their life, throughout middle school, high school, college. It requires them being teachable enough to be coached. It requires them to look at the exact nature of their wrongs. They have to study their own film. They have to look back at their own races and see, what was it that I did wrong here, and evaluate themselves. They got to do a little bit of self-reflection. Of course, they have to study film of others, the other runners. But eventually, they'll get to that. The first thing they have to do is look at themselves. And then they'll get to it. But they have to go through it. They have to go through it. The pain of a loss. The pain of losing that sprint by a neck. Literally, a neck. Imagine losing a sprint by a neck, like somebody just, you're this close to that person and they stuck their neck out and won by a centimeter. That's painful. But the runner had to go through that in order to get to the victory. So they had to go through the agony, the fatigue, the soreness, the working out, their coach yelling at them from time to time, so forth and so on. But eventually, they get some humility and they start looking at themselves with the right eyes. They start to say, yep, you know what? I'm great. Yes, I'm fast. But I also have a lot to work on to become the best version of myself. There are others out there who are faster than me. There are others out there who have won more races than me. But here is where I can do better. I must train to be better at my hurdle jumping. Sometimes I do not clear those hurdles in the way that I need to clear it. I've been watching myself and looking at the last few races, and I hit 2 hurdles, and I got to do better than that. But that's okay. Then the grace is administered to them. That athlete must give grace to themselves, and they must be given grace. Because they're able to say right after that moment, because it's a short period of time, there's a space right there where that grace needs to come in, because it's very easy for that athlete to be like, well, dang, you know what? Yeah, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do these hurdles, man. Every time I looked at every film, and it just seems like I can't do it. It just seems like I'm always going to fail at the hurdle jump. Everything else, I seem to be excelling in, but this hurdle jumping, I'm always going to fail at this. Man, I suck. I'm such a loser. I'm such an idiot. That's all that can come in there right away. There's that space. And in that little space, grace has to be administered. You know what? That's okay. I can do it. I can do better. I need to take it a little bit easy on myself. I have worked so hard over the years. It's okay that I'm in need to work on my hurdle jumping a little bit. I'm sure there are many others that have to work or train a little harder on something. It is okay. I'm still amazing at the sprint, and I'm still awesome at gaining speed around the bend. Man, I have come so far. I must give myself some credit. Got to give myself some credit. It's about progress, not perfection. This is grace that person, he or she, has to administer to themselves. Then he or she receives grace from their coach. Coach then pours into him or her. Wow, you have accomplished so much. I've seen how far you have come because of all the hard work you are putting in. Look at all of your medals and achievements. That's why I love coaching you. I love having you on my team because I see the greatness in you. Now go be great, coach says. That's grace. Coach could have easily condemned him or her. You know what? Yeah, your hurdle jumping sucks. You'll never get it. Yeah, I'm about ready to kick you off my team, man. I don't know what to do with you. Could have easily did that. Instead, administered grace to the athlete. So you understand, you're catching the drift. You're understanding this. So back to my story. Shall we continue? Because I got to share my experience with you so you can relate to this and understand it for yourself. Identifying with this will help you to will help you to see it, and it'll help you clarify things, and it'll help you look at yourself in your life and go, man, dang, Kareem's kind of just like me. I'm not alone. And then that gives you, there's that grace, and then you're able to have some of that humility to ask for help when needed, right? So I had to know what it is like to fall. I had to know what it was like to hit a bottom. We all do. We have to know what it is like to fall. This starts at a very early age, my friends. When that infant and that toddler is growing, they start crawling, and then they walk up to that table, and they try to pull themselves up. And they got to learn. They got to fall a few times before they actually get the strength to pull themselves up all the way. Then they try crawling again, and then they try to stand up on their own, and then they fall. And they got to do it again and again and again and again and again, and they have to go through it in order to get to it. Next thing you know, they're walking. Next thing you know, they're running. Oh my gosh. Who would have thought? That is what has to happen, my friends. I had to fall. I had to hit a bottom. I had to be cut off. I had to be in desolation. I had to be without. Once I went through that, that is when I got to it. Humility, that is. Because I was also given grace during that time. There was so much grace being shown to me. First of all, keeping me alive was one of them. Feeding me. And still giving me what I need. That's what God was doing the whole time. And God was doing that through people. Through people, I was shown so much grace. People were giving me money. People were giving me shelter. Hotel rooms were being purchased for me. People were giving me care packages. And even mom still was allowing me to come over and shower when needed. Grace. Then humility came upon me. Finally, I asked for help. You guys know the story, but even after that, you already know I got filled with a bunch of pride again a few years later, and I slipped back into my old behaviors. And you know why? Because I forgot about the grace. I forgot about all the grace that was given to me in so many ways. All I could see was the pain, the agony, the hurt, the fear, the anger, the frustration, the need for control, the need to thump everyone else across the head with what they were doing wrong. The outward lens, the ego, yep. The baby wanted to come back out to play. Little toddler Kareem was upset. Everyone leaves me. No one wants to play with me. So I'm just going to go sit in my corner and sulk. Beat myself up, then look very inwardly, the wrong way, at what is wrong with me and conclude that this is why no one cares for me, no one loves me, and everyone leaves. Start telling myself I am not enough because I'm a failure or I'm a piece of crap. You know the story, probably the same story that you're telling yourself now. But that's why we're here together, so we can clear it together. We can clear the wreckage together. But listen to that, though. Where's the grace? Where's the grace? It was gone. Where's the humility? It was gone. And as you know, I had to go through it in order to get to it again. Because the cycle repeats itself. Here's the cycle. Humility, grace, grace, humility, humility, grace. I had to get a little bit of humility in order to be lifted up, in order to be able to see, in order to see the grace, in order to see with the right eyes. Because with a little bit of humility, it begins to clear that judgment, the judging of myself and the judging of others. Now that you're all caught up with the backstory of that, let's back this up just a little bit with a little bit of research, which I ain't even got to do research most of the time with y'all, because my experience right there that I just shared with you has all of that in it. Has every part where grace was administered, where I needed humility, and how it happened. But I'm going to share this with you so that this could be a little bit more, you can take a little bit more tools with you and practice this daily in clearing the wreckage. I'm going to share with you what grace does and what humility does and how we both need those. Grace promotes humility by revealing our complete dependence upon God, right? It reveals a dependence. Grace highlights that we all have what we have, and what we have, it comes from God. Everything. Grace highlights that God is just being who God is, a giving God. And God is giving us, his children, free gifts. Free. These are gifts that we do not deserve. These are gifts that we didn't work for. Growing up, come on, you had parents. I'm sure they gave you gifts. They gave you clothes. They gave you things that you needed. But they were gifts because you could not do it on your own. You're a 2-year-old. You can't go buy your own pair of shoes. You can't walk to the store and be like, hey, I got some money. I'm 2, but I need a nice shirt and a pair of khakis. Can't do that. Your parents have to do that for you. And your parents do it for free. Your parents don't look at you and be like, you know what? You're 2 years old. I get it. We're going to the store right now. But when you get 23, you owe me. Your parents don't do that, and neither does God. And so grace breaks down that self-reliance, that self-will, and it promotes a total reliance upon a power greater than yourself. It also counters pride. It gets rid of pride. Recognizing God's unmerited favor exposes our pride. It exposes it. It exposes our self-importance. Because we know that the pride is contrary to God's nature. We see how much we have. We see how much we're given in spite of our shortcomings. And we're still given grace and so many gifts. It helps us to see with the right eyes. Grace also creates space for God. Humility, which is born from grace, right, creates a pipeline for more grace. Basically, the more that I realize my dependence on God, then it counters my pride. I realize I cannot do this on my own. I need help. Then more grace is given to me so that I can be willing to ask for help. Grace also shifts our focus. It teaches us to serve others and surrender to God's will. Why is the focus shifted, you may ask? Because and due to the experience of grace, which will produce and create an experience of humility. You have to go through it to get to it. The great thing about that grace that promotes that humility is that the grace gives us the strength to ask for help. So the more and more that I saw my dependence upon God, the more and more I experienced grace, and then the more and more I became humble enough to ask for help. I remember the story quite so well. I would go to work every day, and I was going to church and all that. I just told y'all this story 2 weeks ago. And I was, Mr. Know-it-all, Mr. Filled with pride, Mr. Ego. And I was thumping people across the head with the Bible. Every time I felt like they did something or said something that did not align with what was in the Bible, I opened up the Bible and I told them, this is what the scripture says. My co-workers hated me, but they loved me. My co-workers showed me grace. I just want to shout out my boy Ryan right now, because I gave him hell when we worked together. I gave him hell. I called him out on everything. And I still was given grace. And the cool thing about it all, and I still cannot believe that I was that person. That's how transformed I am. The cool thing about it all is that my coworkers saw the difference in me. After I left that park, after I did that and I left that park and I started going, and I would go back to work for a shift, I was completely different. When somebody did something wrong, well, or at least what I thought was wrong in my eyes, didn't fit to my standard, I said not a word. I just loved them. And they saw that. And they came up to me, lots of them. Man, what has happened, man? You're different. And then I was able to own up and say, you know what, man? Look, man, I got a lot of mess. I got a lot of wreckage. I had to fall in order to receive grace, in order to receive some humility, and I can come to you and be like, we're all the same. You fall, I fall. Who am I? So in summary, let's sum this up. In summary, grace highlights that our successes, our strengths, even existence are not solely the result of our own efforts, but are gifts. This realization breaks down that self-sufficiency, which leads to an honest recognition of our dependence upon God, upon a power greater than us, and our dependence upon others. Grace helps us to realize that, man, the world does not revolve around us. So it takes away that entitled mindset and that victim mentality, recognizing that grace is simply an unmerited favor. It directly challenges that mindset, right? I can no longer go around and blame people for my circumstances. Neither can I no longer go around talking about I deserve this, I deserve that, when everything that was given to me, I didn't deserve. Once we embrace grace, that means that we're acknowledging that our mistakes are part of the human experience and that we are not perfect. This vulnerability is a key aspect of humility, which then involves admitting when we're wrong and being open to correction, discipline, and forgiveness. You got to be open to correction. And you know what? The humility that I was given was getting me to that place. And the grace that I was being shown was getting me to that place to be able to hear other people tell me. I remember my mentor telling me right there after I shared that stuff. You know what, Kareem? He gave me some insight. You know what, Kareem? It sounds to me that you have a self-loathing issue. It seems that you look at yourself in a bad way, in a negative light, that you have such a hatred for yourself. I had to be willing to listen to that, to take that in, take that correction, take that discipline, and go forth. That is what humility and grace does, my friends. Whew. And here is the thing. Humility is where grace and spiritual growth can flourish. In summary, humility is where grace is met, and where there is grace, then humility will follow. Ultimately, the act of receiving grace requires one to step down from a position of perceived self-importance and accept help, which actually nurtures humility and a humble heart. Humility is the attitude that says, I need you. And grace is the divine answer that says, I am here for you. I have always been here for you. This creates a cycle of dependency and divine empowerment. Remember, The quick analogy, I'm going to make this quick. The analogy that I shared, when that person is in the gym and they've been working out, and they get on that third rep, the last rep that they need to push that thing up off their chest, and they can't do it at all. They can't even get it off their chest. And their spotter comes and takes it away. Takes the pain, takes the weight away, and say, you know what, I got it. And then says, it's okay. You'll get it next time. That's grace. I'm here. It's okay. I'm here. You're not alone. Hey, you may get it next time. You may not. But that's okay. I'm still going to be here to help you. I'm still going to be here to give you strength. I'm still going to be here to enable you with power. As long as you know that you need assistance, I got you. That is grace and humility in a nutshell, and how those two things are required. They're required. Because you're going to go through it, but in order for you to get to it, you got to have grace and humility. So, folks, that is where I was while I was sitting in that park. By the time I left that park, I had experienced humility and grace. I needed this then, and I need it now in order to continue clearing the wreckage. So in your life, again, you have to go through it in order to get to it. You are going to have to fall. You are going to have to make mistakes. You are going to have to fail at things. Some of the most successful people, you ain't see a lot of their failures. All you see is the highlights. You're watching them on social media and you're like, man, golly. And to you, it seems like they got where they got overnight. And you're just like, man, I want to be like that. How did they do it? The part that you're missing is where grace and humility had to take place for them to get to where they are now. They had to go through it. You know how many times they had to mess up? How many times they had to fall? How many times they had to fail? How many no's that they had to hear? Thousands. They had to go through it in order to get to it. So some things, man, may happen that you do not understand in life. And it's okay to question some things when they happen. But I'm here to tell you right now, some losses, some mistakes, some mishaps, even some failures will happen. And maybe it is to foster just a little bit of humility. Maybe it is to promote just a little bit of humility inside of you so that you can see and get to the grace and actually experience what grace truly is that has ever been so presently awaiting you. And the grace is already there. All you have to do is look around. But you have to look with the right eyes, and it takes a little bit of falling down in order for you to be able to see that help there. The toddler, when they fell down several times, their parents were right there. It's okay. Oh, good job. Still telling them good job. That's how God is with us. It's okay. Good job, though. You're still doing good. You are still good to me. My love does not change because you're failing. My love does not change because you make a mistake. My love for you is still unconditional. My grace for you is still there. My grace for you makes your power perfect in your weakness. Because I am here to lift you up. All you have to do is ask, I'm right here. So, don't be the kid. You know I got to go there with you. Don't be the kid that falls down a bunch of times and their mom or dad are trying to help them up. And they're like, I got it. And then they fall down again. I got it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And they fall down again. And then they end up falling and hurting themselves. You don't have to hurt yourself in this life. All you have to do is realize that you have fallen down a couple of times. Now it's time for you to ask for help. That's all I got for you today. I love y'all. I'm so glad that you were here with me today. This was episode 49, y'all. Next week, we got episode 50. Oh, my gosh. I can't even believe that we have come this far. And I only have to give credit to God because it is because of God's grace. And through that grace, I've been given just a little bit of humility to be able to share my life with you, my experience with you, in hopes that you will gain some hope and some clarity, and we can clear the wreckage together. So as I always leave you, take some time to look inside so that the wreckage can begin to clear. Peace.